Welcome. Another episode, ladies and gentlemen, of the Afternoon Podcast with Miller DC. We're going to be talking some MMA. UFC 298 is this weekend, so we're already officially in fight week. And, man, I can't wait to talk about Topuria versus Volkanovski. I'm working on a video to release later on that as well, too. So that and more will be discussed today. And there's plenty to talk about. Beta Quest in the building. What's up, Beta Quest? Welcome to the stream. Chris Faith, welcome to the stream. Volkanovski, Ilia Topuria. Before we get to that, guys, there has been some breaking news in a sense. That's a little bit, to some might be concerning, to others might be exciting, depending on how you call it. It depends how you feel about this main event for UFC 300. And I want to hear your guys' thoughts in a second. But let me see if I could pull it up real quick for you guys. And this comes as somewhat of a surprise for UFC 290 or UFC 300. Let me see if I could bring it up real quick. Oh, here it is. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. Another episode. We'll be playing some live voicemails as well, too. If you guys want to call in, 267-545-8096 to share who do you have winning for UFC 298. But quickly before we get to that, guys, real quickly before we get to that, breaking news. According to Ariel Helwani, which we made a short about a little bit ago as well, too. According to Ariel Helwani, supposedly, this is just a rumor going around. The UFC's top choice for the UFC 300 main event, which I honestly didn't see coming. 267-545-8096 if you want to share your thoughts on the main event for 298. But quickly, would be Leon Edwards versus Khamzat Chimaev. Other bouts in contention include Duplessis versus Adesanya, or Dricus versus Chimaev, or Edwards versus Belal Muhammad. I'll tell you this right now, guys. I don't mean to be funny. I'm not even joking. If it's definitely not gonna be Leon and this name right here, Belal Muhammad. If that were the case, the UFC fan base would be in an uproar. The UFC smart enough. That's not gonna happen. Yes, Belal deserves the shot, but that's not going to be the main event of UFC 300. So we could just cancel that one out. I don't mean to hate. I don't mean to, sound like I'm bad-mouthing Belal, but that's not going to happen. The current holdup is Chimaev's lack of ability to fight in the U.S. Now, the question is, if it is for UFC 300, Khamzat Chimaev, Leon Edwards, would you guys be okay with that? Because I'll be honest, I wouldn't mind it.
You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point your finger.
You guys might hate that take. We can talk about it in a bit, but I wouldn't mind that at all. I wouldn't mind Khamzat Chimaev, Leon, for the main event. It's not the greatest. It's not the most intriguing, I'll admit, but I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that. That's just me over here. We'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. We have some voicemails pending that we will play soon for 298. But that is the news circulating as of recent as far as what's going to happen next. Why don't we get quickly right into the voicemails, see what people have to say. 267-545-8096 if you want to share your thoughts on who's winning between Volkanovski and Topuria. And right before we get to the who wins, right before we get to the voicemails, we got to make a poll. We got to see what the people in the chat think on who's going to win. Ilia Topuria. Let's see real quick. Boom. So the poll is up. Thank you guys for coming through another Monday afternoon stream. We've been doing this every Monday, so it feels good to come back week after week. So more people will come through as they always do, and let's have some fun. Let's get to the first voicemail. 267-545-8096. You can call in and share who you have winning for this weekend. We've raising the volume would be helpful, and here we go.
People's champ Chris Faith is speaking. Let me talk about the prediction of UFC 298. Let's go right now.
Right to it. I like that, Chris. Getting right to the meat and potatoes of the conversation. Volkanovski and Topuria. And after a recent interview, man, I'm not that confident. I'll talk to you guys about that in a bit. But here we go. What's up, Zelme? Welcome to the stream. The OG, the legend, overall 99 Media. Welcome to the stream.
So, before I get to the main event, Merab Dvalishvili versus Henry Cejudo.
People aren't talking about that fight enough, right? The Henry Cejudo versus Merab. Why that is, I'm not sure. This is a significant fight for the bantamweight division, right? So let's see what Chris has to say.
Cejudo meaning like, meaning ass. He's ass. Cejudo. So, I got Merab Dvalishvili. Vicious TKO.
Wow.
And Henry retires for good.
So, not only does Chris have Merab beating Cejudo, he has him knocking him out, and he has him retiring Henry. Listen, I don't know what kind of version we're going to get at this old of a Cejudo, but I don't see Merab TKOing him, especially with Cejudo having that wrestling ability as well, too. Now, we might see Merab spam takedowns and Cejudo just getting tired and not being able to do anything about it or keep him away and strike and hurt him. Kind of like Petr Yan. Petr Yan's a better striker than Merab, but just couldn't keep him away. Now, maybe the wrestling makes a difference, but I could see Cejudo getting a bit winded at this point in his career as compared to Merab. So let's see what he has to say.
Oh, Jeff Neal versus Ian Gary.
This is an interesting for me as well too. Jeff Neal versus Ian Gary.
Oh, yeah, I got Jeff Neal by unanimous decision or split decision. Wow. Now Robert Whitaker versus Paulo Costa.
He didn't elaborate enough, so we'll talk about this as well. Like as far as Jeff Neal versus Ian Gary, we'd love to hear some more thoughts of yours, Chris. But I feel the same way. I think Jeff Neal is gonna get the job done. Why that is? I just think him being a veteran, I think him being overlooked. Ian Gary or Jeff Neal looking good against Shavkat, I says a lot. Now Ian Gary is crafty. He is skilled, and he might cause trouble for Jeff Neal, especially his range, him being so witty in the way he fights, and he might cause problems for Jeff Neal. But I don't know. I feel like it is only a 3-round fight. I think that benefits Ian Gary, but let's see.
I see Robert Whitaker winning this fight. Paulo Costa may think that he can win, but I'm like, nah, hell no. He should have fought him last year. But anyways, I'm going for Robert Whitaker. TKO, third round, probably unanimous or split decision. Volkanovski versus Topuria. Well, I know I'm going for, before I did say I was going for Topuria, but I changed my mind. I'm going for.
He changed his mind, ladies and gentlemen.
Volkanovski, and I'm going to tell you the reason why. Recently, last week, Topuria said, oh, if I win, I don't want to fight Max Holloway or the winner of Ortega versus Rodriguez. Well, I may not like Ortega nor Rodriguez, but Topuria versus Max Holloway is a big fight, but you want to fight him? And this guy wants to fight, bro, McGregor will never go down to featherweight. Like, literally, fight the other guy. If he beats Volkanovski, no. If you don't want to fight him, then make the rematch between Volkanovski and Topuria. That's the only thing I can say. Topuria needs to stop being a fucking bitch. And if he becomes champion, he better not say, I don't want to fight this guy. No. You become the champion, you got to fight everyone in the featherweight division.
Chris has some strong thoughts on what Topuria should do. I think the rematch would happen if the fight is close, Chris. But the problem is, let's say Topuria actually does what he says he's going to do, although that's a little bit ludicrous to say, right? But I think it'll be the same thing as Sterling and O'Malley. O'Malley got the knockout. They're not even considering giving Sterling a rematch. He went up in weight. He's gone. Even if he wanted to stay at the same weight at 135, I don't think they would have gave him the shot because of the way in which he lost. If the fight is close between Volkanovski and Topuria, yeah, we'll probably see a rematch, but I guess it depends how it plays out. Not saying that it's for sure that Topuria is going to get the job done in the fashion in which he did, but and it's sad because Volkanovski is a seasoned veteran, and what he has done in the division, again, top 2 greatest featherweights of all time. But if he gets dogged, if he gets knocked out cold, that'll be 2 back-to-back losses. I don't think he'll get the immediate rematch. We have another voicemail. Let's get right to it.
So let me say something. I know, you know what I realized? It's been a year since Ngannou left, and I know this talk's going about, oh, he fumbled bad. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not here to talk about the fact that he left out last year, but this is something new that I just realized. that a guy who holds the heavyweight champion or almost a year later, who defeated the leftover of Francis Ngannou, John Jones, doesn't want to fight in UFC 300. And he declined because, but hear me out. You decline the fight, either Tom Aspinall or Stipe Miocic, whichever, but you're over there somewhere playing, tackling, wrestling with rugby players who are not UFC fighters, and you're getting drunk. And, you know, here's the stupidest thing about this guy. It's been almost 3 years since he said, "Oh, I'm gonna start drinking" after that incident that happened in Las Vegas. And yeah, he drinks again. There's a video footage of him in an open mic event, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so drunk." Bro, you could never, ever believe some things that come out of this guy's mouth when he posts on Twitter. It's a good thing I don't have Twitter when he wants to say, "Oh, I'm done with drinking. I'm done with drinking." But it's about almost 3 years later, you still haven't learned your fucking lesson. And yeah, you're fucking intoxicated. And you're calling the greatest of all time my fucking ass, bro. Greatest of all time my fucking ass. Excuse my language. But literally. If he can't fight at UFC 300, that means he fumbled the bat for UFC 300, people. John Jones has officially fumbled the bat for UFC 300.
Francis Ngannou has been criticized for fumbling the bag, and I think that's been proven to be false, right? Because he's making money. He made a good amount against Tyson Fury. Now he's going to get another big fight as well, too. So, if anything, he didn't. Maybe John Jones did by not fighting at UFC 300. And this whole Stipe fight, I really don't think the fans and the media are going to take this fight well as far as receiving it. We want to see him fight the champion or the interim champ in Tom Aspinall. This whole Stipe fight, I think, is just... I think it's almost the same thing as the Conor McGregor fight with Michael Chandler. I think because we've been waiting so long for the fight to happen and it hasn't, people have lost interest, and most don't want to see Chandler versus McGregor just the same way we don't want to see John Jones versus Stipe. It's like almost, not saying Chandler's a has-been, but John Jones versus Stipe is just like almost two has-beens or two over-the-hill, just legacy fight. It's not that interesting. So I would agree with you as well, too. Seeing John Jones' career as of recent has been a little bit underwhelming. Granted, he is one of the best of all time, I will say that. But it does suck a bit. Let's get right to UFC 298, and let's talk a bit about this main card. We could kind of work up the card. Let's maybe start just on the main card. If we do want to talk some prelim fights, we'll get there. But let's quickly have some fun with the main card. If you guys want to look quickly through it, it's Hernandez versus Kopylov, Merab versus Cejudo, as Chris talked about earlier, Neal versus Gary, Robert Whitaker versus Costa as the co-main. That's a 5-round fight as well, too. Damn, we got 3 5-minute rounds. No, just 1 5-minute round fight. 5-round fight, I'm sorry, Volkanovski versus Topuria. The rest of it will be 3 minutes, and we'll talk about whether that plays a factor on anything at all. But let's talk about the main card. Let's talk about Hernandez versus Kopylov, and then move on all the way to the main event, Volkanovski versus Topuria. Let's quickly first start off with Kopylov versus Hernandez. Now, Hernandez has been not having the best of luck. His fights have been canceled as of recent. I think 3 back-to-back. Against Chris Curtis, it was Curtis that withdrew. I think against Kopylov, the first time they were supposed to fight, it was Hernandez that withdrew. And then the Iskarov fight, Aliskerov withdrew. So he's been supposed to have fought for quite some time, since September 2023. We're finally going to get him back in the octagon against Kopylov. Kopylov, on the other hand, I believe a 4-fight win streak. 1, 2, 3, 4 as well, too. And he's looked pretty solid. A liver punch finish against Josh in round number 2, and then a head kick win against Ribeiro. So his last 4 fights have been by finish. Kopylov is a big threat in the division right now, and now he's going to be fighting Anthony Hernandez, middleweight bout. I'm going to go with Kopylov. I think that's a safe bet. I think Kopylov's striking is dangerous. I believe he fights out of the southpaw stance, if I remember correctly. He's just crafty. in the way that he fights. I think he's going to get the job done. Anthony Hernandez. It's not that we haven't seen him in the octagon like in the longest time, but it has been quite some time since September. And I just think Roman is going to be more fresh in the octagon. His striking is a little bit more dangerous. Almost identical records. Kopylov 12-2, Hernandez 11-2. Now, Hernandez being ranked number 14, Roman being ranked number 23. I think this is a way for him to sneak into the top 15 rankings. And I'm curious to see how he does. As of recent, again, 4 back-to-back finishes for Kopylov. Let's see if he gets it done against Hernandez. And it's the same of Khabib versus Ferguson, and never ever happened, says Chris. I'm 3 minutes behind. Damn, Beta, catch up. Let's get right to it. Feel free to leave a voicemail, 267-545-8096 if you want to catch up. Now, let's talk about, or if you want to share your predictions. Now, let's talk about Merab versus Cejudo. Let's get down to business.
You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point your finger.
Cejudo Merab, bantamweight division, number 2 versus number 9 in the bantamweight rankings. Now, if we want to quickly look at the rankings in the bantamweight division, I think it's safe to say that it is a very meaningful fight. You have Aljamain Sterling at number 1. You have Merab Dvalishvili at number 2. And then you have Henry Cejudo at number 3. The interesting thing about this fight is that Cejudo has had a title shot and he lost against Sterling. Merab has been kind of coasting in the top of the division at number 1 or 2, supposed to have fought for the title. But instead, which is a little bit weird unless you know the fight game and the fight business, and you know that Merab might not be the most exciting as far as his style of fighting. So instead of him getting the shot, even though he's number 2, who gets the shot before him? Marlon Chito Vera at number 6. And the funny thing about that is that Sean O'Malley was number 13, where Umar Nurmagomedov is, and he got the shot at Petr Yan, beats him for the number 1 contender spot, and then fights for the title. So I think it's safe to say he was fast-tracked. I think we can all agree, but at the end of the day, he got the job done. He fights Sterling, knocks him out in the second round. UFC puts that round up in a matter of hours after the fact. Sean O'Malley has the title now. Merab on paper perhaps should be the one that deserves a shot, but at the end of the day, it's not him that gets a shot. It's Chito Vera. Why is that? Because Vera has fought Sean O'Malley before. He has a win over him on paper, right? Even though there has been back and forth arguments as far as, oh, well, Chito didn't necessarily beat him fair and square. He hit him on his perennial nerve. We're going to find out at 299 who's a better fighter, I guess, right? Even though Chito Vera does have a win. I don't see them doing a trilogy fight no matter who wins, whether it's Vera or Sean O'Malley. So we'll see how that plays out. But nonetheless, what we're going to get this weekend is number 2 and number 3, Merab and Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo, if we look at his previous outings, he lost to Sterling in a close fight. I think it was a split decision win for Aljamain Sterling. He had a win before that was a win against Dominick Cruz, back in May 9th, 2020. All that to say, he hasn't been the most active. It has been Marlon Moraes, June 8th of 2019. Then it was Dominick Cruz, May 9th of 2012. Then almost, a little bit over almost 3 years against Sterling, and he loses a split decision. Now he's going to be fighting Merab Dvalishvili, who on the other hand, Merab, his most previous fights, they've all been wins. Second round KO finish against Marlon Moraes. Now, Jose Aldo, that was one of the most boring fights I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it was sad to see Jose Aldo retire in that fashion. A loss against Merab, where Merab was just spamming takedowns. And then in March 11th of 2023, he gets a win over Petr Yan. Another boring fight. Is his style boring? I mean, let's be honest. It is a little boring.
You need people like me. You need people like me so you can...
Tuto says Topuria es el papá de Volk. We'll get there in a bit. What's up, Tuto? Welcome back to the stream. Always coming through. Welcome. All those dropping in, make sure you hit the thumbs up. Let's just be honest. Let's call it for what it is. Merab's style is a bit boring. He's 16-4. His style is a bit boring, but nonetheless, he's going to fight number 3 ranked fighter Henry Cejudo. Who is going to win this fight? Let's get right to it. Official prediction for Merab versus Cejudo. I would love to see Cejudo pull it off, but I'm not confident in betting on him. I think both of them being wrestling heavy in their style, I think is a recipe for a boring fight. Unless, if it's going to be an entertaining fight, it's not going to be because of Merab. It's going to be because of Henry Cejudo, because Henry Cejudo is going to be able to keep the fight away from the ground, although Merab is going to try to fight out of the clinch and go for takedowns. Ironically enough, against an Olympic wrestler, gold medalist in Cejudo. Now, if it essentially becomes a striking match, what's up, brother? Just bantering. I mean, listen, I have Topuria winning. We'll talk about that in a bit. But let's say Cejudo just is able to keep it away from the ground and it essentially becomes a striking match. That's what I would like to see. And if that's the case, Cejudo wins. But I think Merab, what he's going to do, sad to say, is he's not going to be high percentage getting a lot of takedowns against Cejudo, but he's going to do what he did against Petr Yan. Go for takedown after takedown, and round after round is going to be boring. He's going to maybe get some ground control time or some strikes out of the clinch, and it'll essentially be a boring match with Merab getting the W. What I would like to see more, which is also possible, what I would like to see more is Cejudo nullify the takedowns, Cejudo keeping the distance, and maybe landing a big left down the middle and wobbling Merab, maybe getting a knockout finish. And although he didn't get the win against Sterling, getting a win against Merab will be, as far as emotionally, a win, an emotional win, and a win on the record if Cejudo gets the job done against Merab. But I'm sad to say, just him having 2-3 fights in the last 4 years, I don't know how fresh he's going to be. He looked a little bit tired against Sterling. That was a 5-round fight. So just imagine the pace that Merab is going to put early in a fight against Cejudo. That's why I think, sadly enough, it's going to be a boring fight. So I have Kopylov winning the first fight in the main event. I have Merab winning a boring decision. I doubt he finishes Cejudo unless I could see something weird, like, you know how Dillashaw had like that shoulder injury against Sterling and got finished. Unless he gets some kind of injury in the octagon, then Merab finishes him. I don't think it'll be finished. I think it's going to be a decision win for Merab. You let me know who you guys have, but I have Merab just a boring decision. I truly do feel that way. Merab is going to smother him with cardio. Exactly. His cardio is his strength. I don't think Cejudo is going to be able to keep up, which is crazy because Cejudo, again, gold medalist. But at this point in his career, I just don't see it. Now, let's move on to one I'm even more excited for. This is an interesting one. Geoff Neal versus Ian Garry. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to talk about this one, guys, because, listen, Ian Garry has been in the news for maybe not the most pleasant of news. He has lately he's been winning. He has a win over Daniel Rodriguez, quite impressive. He got a knockout in the first round. But he isn't necessarily the most liked fighter at the moment. I think that's fair to say, right? Now, Geoff Neal, on the other hand, he's coming off a loss, but it was against Shavkat Rakhmonov, who many feel that he's the future of the welterweight division. Speaking of Shavkat Rakhmonov, so I can see why people feel that high on Shavkat. Nonetheless, he almost went the full 3 rounds with him. I think that says a lot about how good he is. Now, is Ian Garry as good as Shavkat? I think we can say no. Does MMA math work that way? Whereas Geoff Neal looked great against Shavkat before the finish, so he's going to dominate Ian Garry. I'm not going to say that, but nonetheless, the level of competition that Geoff Neal has faced throughout his career, I think is commendable. He has been in there with the best of them. I mean, look at his resume. He beat Ponzinibbio, he beat Luque, he lost to Rakhmonov. So he was on a 2-fight winning streak before losing to Rakhmonov. He has lost to Neil Magny. He's lost to Stephen Thompson. He has beaten Bilal Muhammad. Granted, you could argue is a different version of Bilal. That was about 4 or 5 years ago. So that was a long time ago. Ian Garry, on the other hand, Uh, he's undefeated, 13-0. But look at the names that he has beaten. He has beaten Daniel Rodriguez, Gabe Green, Neil Magny. Good names, not necessarily the upper echelon, right? In the middleweight division. With all that being said, it worries me a bit the size difference, the reach advantage that perhaps Gary's gonna have. But with all that being said, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Jeff Neal to get the job done. That's gonna be my underdog pick because I'm assuming Ian Gary's gonna have early odds. I'm assuming he's gonna have a slight edge advantage. Yeah, he's a minus 230. He's a minus 230 Ian Gary over Jeff Neal. So this is gonna be my underdog pick of the night. My underdog pick of the night. I'm picking Kopilov. I'm picking Merab. Merab now, I wonder what the odds are versus Cejudo early odds. I'm assuming Merab is going to be the favorite. Let's see what we have here. A minus 150 or maybe Merab, let's say. Yeah, minus 200 money line odds, plus 170 for Cejudo. With all that being said, okay, so yeah, Kopilov is a favorite. I'm going with the favorite there versus Hernandez. I'm going with the favorite of Merab versus Cejudo. But my underdog pick of the night will be Jeff Neal. I think he's gonna get the job done. Am I confident? No. Ian Gary, you could say what you want about his personal life. He's undefeated, and I think there's something to that as far as confidence factor. Being undefeated, 13-0, Jeff Neal being 15-5 on the other hand. But that's going to be my underdog pick, Jeff Neal. Now, let's move on to Robert Whitaker versus Paulo Costa. It's crazy to look at the record of Paulo Costa and look at his most recent, I guess you could say, activity at 185, at 170, and just what he has been doing since 2021. But let's quickly look it over. Robert Whitaker, since April 17th of 2021, he has had a canceled bout against Whitaker. They were supposed to fight 2.5 years ago, roughly. He pulled out to an illness. Then against Cannonier, he withdrew. So 2 canceled fights. Then against Vettori, the debacle that was where they couldn't agree to fight at a certain weight. It ended up becoming a fight at a catch weight in the light heavyweight. They ended up fighting at 205 instead of 185. Then he fights Lou Rockhold, right? But before that fight was canceled. It was rescheduled. He beat Lou Rockhold, but it was a close fight. Because that was a close fight, and then there's 2 canceled bouts after that against Ikram Aliskerov and against Hamza Chimaev. With all that being said, let's just say he's not the most reliable fighter. He simply isn't. He isn't the most reliable fighter at 185. Then you have Robert Whitaker, who, on the other hand, this is a confirmed bout. So I guess you could say we don't even know if Paulo Costa is going to show up. So I'm a little bit worried on whether the fight even happens. I'm a little bit worried about. But if it does, the recent resume of Robert Whitaker, a win against Gastelum. He loses to Adesanya and he loses to Dricus. He beats Marvin Vettori. Looked dominant against Vettori. But him losing in the second round, look at the reason for, if I could try to zoom in a bit for dramatic effect. Look at the reason for the loss that they have on Tapology. A power jab in round number 2. His chin has looked a bit questionable, to say the least. Left a voicemail. Let's get it. I'm gonna go right to it right after covering or talking about this fight. Thank you, Beta, for leaving a voicemail. Adds to the value of the show. His chin to me has looked a bit questionable. And maybe Costa catches him. Costa isn't the biggest puncher or striker in the division. Oh, it's okay. I'll try to raise the volume up high, and we should be able to listen to it well. I'll let you know if we have any issues at all. So we'll play that shortly. Coming off, he's 1-2 in his last 3. He's fighting Costa. I thought Whitaker was one of the best middleweights in the world, and I thought he wasn't going to lose to anybody but Adesanya, but he does lose by knockout to Dricus. Dricus is big for the division, caught him and hurt him, and I don't know what more we can say as far as whether his career is blemished and whether he has a chin problem. But we're going to find out against Costa. Now, Costa has had 5 canceled bouts since 2021, and he struggled with a rock hold. So I'm sorry. That's not, like, as much as I would like to see Costa get the job done and that'll be better for entertainment, I don't think it happens. I think Whitaker is going to get the job done by, does he finish Costa? Costa is durable. I'm going to say a decision win for Robert Whitaker, even though I want to go by knockout. I might change my mind. Might come out with a prediction video, but I'm going to go decision win. Don't feel too confident about that. I almost want to go more knockout. Freak it. Let's change our mind live on stream. Let's change our mind. I'm gonna go knockout win for Whitaker. I think he's too dynamic and he has too many weapons. He might catch him with a head kick or just something big. He's gonna hurt Costa. And if Adesanya could get him out of there early, I think Whitaker could too. Let's get to our next voicemail, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if we can hear it clearly. And I think we made the exact same points until now. Interesting. So it just goes to show that you can call me Papa since I've taught you. Whitaker has been knocked out by one, so you might have with a punch. So you might have Whitaker winning, I'm assuming. Let's play the next voicemail, guys. 267-545-8096. If you want to share your predictions on UFC 298 with the main event being Topuria versus Volkanovski. But let's get to the next voicemail. Here we go.
It's Beta. I'm looking at these picks, right? I'm going Kopylov for the opener because dude's got.
So we see what's happening again and again with Beta. He hears my picks and he picks the same thing.
Power. He's scary. All right, so let's just move on to the next one. Cejudo versus Merab Dvalishvili. I got Cejudo. I think
he has Cejudo. He's believing in the old fart in Henry Cejudo. Let's see what he has to say.
Merab's biggest draw is that he's basically wrestler who can keep coming at you the way that Colby Covington does, but for
and I hear you perfectly fine. I'm pretty sure the chat does as well too. So the quality is perfect. Call at work all the time, Beta. We would like to hear your almost at expertise, but I wouldn't even call it that. We would like to hear your opinions on these fight cards.
35, right? It's Cejudo's strength. He didn't lose to Aljamain Sterling in the worst possible fashion. He got outsized by a larger fighter. He did well against Sterling. So to say that he might not make it against somebody like Merab, who's style.
I don't know if he got outsized. You know what I think happened in that Sterling fight a bit more that people aren't necessarily like hammering on? I think the rust, the ring rust was a big deal. I felt that if he was more active in that 5th round, he could have left more out there. He was tired. He was tired against Sterling. I don't necessarily think he was more outsized. I think he was more tired and couldn't hang in there. And the time outside the ring or the octagon really affected him. Me personally, I don't think it was so much more being outsized by Sterling. But
by a larger fighter. He did well against
He did do well.
Sterling. So to say that he might not make it against somebody like Merab, whose style only benefits somebody like Cejudo, is crazy. Now, do I like the King of Cringe? Absolutely not. The shtick is kind of old, but I get it. I get why people hate on it. So I got Cejudo. Let's go to Jeff Neal versus.
Now, did he say how?
Like Merab, whose style only benefits somebody like Cejudo, is crazy. Now, do I like the King of Cringe? Absolutely not. The shtick is kind of old, but I get it.
The shtick is old with Cejudo. Absolutely.
I get why people hate on it. So I got Cejudo.
But yeah, Cejudo, Kopylov, interesting. I have Merab. He has Cejudo. I could understand the wrestling pedigree and how that would play in the back of mind of people where they believe Cejudo is going to be able to nullify the takedowns. And Cejudo has power. So if he's able to catch Merab, it'll get interesting. It's just Merab's cardio and his pace is just as annoying as it is and boring on top of that. It's just very hard to beat. And I don't see Cejudo at his age right now beating Merab. Just because I think age is going to play a factor. He's 37 years old. Then you add to that the cardio of Merab. I just don't see it happening, but we'll see. 267-545-8096 if you want to call in and share your predictions on UFC 298, which is this weekend. Let me catch up with chat before we play the rest of the voicemail. Alleyway Addict, welcome to the stream, by the way. Ring rust and out of practice is a real thing. As you said about Costa getting the Rocky treatment is going to cost him getting the Rocket treatment is going to cost him this fight along with the cancellations. I think him having almost 5 canceled bouts in the last 3 years and him struggling with a Lou Rockhold, I think that's just going to trouble him. Cejudo lost because of no subs. Wrestling isn't good with no subs these days. Yeah, he didn't really do much with anything he had on the ground. Okay, I'm here. What I missed? We're just talking 298. You missed a Chris Faith voicemail, but you're currently dropping in on a Beta Quest voicemail. We're doing voicemails unless you want to talk live. Let me know the difference if you prefer the difference. But leave a voicemail. It would be great to hear your thoughts. But Beta Quest is going through each and every fight for the main event and sharing his predictions. Kopylov. So far he has Kopylov and Cejudo. Let's see what he has for the next fight.
Let's go to Jeff Neal versus Ian Gary. Jeff Neal, who almost edged out a win against Shavkat Rakhmonov, deserves more credit than he gets.
We have to agree.
So I'm going Jeff Neal. Ian Gary is crafty. He throws wild kicks. He's a draw in his own way.
Styles make fights too as well. So like, although Jeff Neal did great against Shavkat, I also wouldn't be surprised if, although he did great against Shavkat, Ian Gary catches him with something crazy and knocks him out, because Ian Gary is a little bit maybe more unpredictable than Shavkat as far as his striking, and maybe comes out a little bit more aggressive, and maybe that pays off for him, maybe it doesn't, right? So Styles make fights. I can see Ian Gary pulling it off, but yes, because of how good Jeff Neal did against Shavkat, I can see him beating Ian Gary as well too, so I would have to agree with you.
But I don't see him getting over the power of Neal the whole fight without, getting caught at some point. But it's anybody's game in that fight.
Absolutely. That's a good way to put it. It's under it goes to anybody's game. It really is anybody's game. I could see either of them winning, but I'm gonna edge and lean towards Jeff Neal.
Then you have Costa Whitaker.
Beta, I pick all the boring fighters. Oh, here the beef stars between Hito and Beta Quest. Maybe they could have a debate later for tonight's podcast. That's hilarious.
I don't know enough about.
Ian does have some nasty leg kicks as well too. Again, Styles make fights alleyway, so that's where it makes me a little bit interested to see what happens, because I could see, again, although Neal did great against Shavkat, that could be an early problem for Jeff Neal, is those nasty leg kicks. What Merab did to Yan is just not going to work the same on someone like Cejudo. I don't know. I could see him getting frustrated and tired quicker than Yan. So we'll see, Beta. It's great to have people disagree in the chat and talk about these fights, because we're gonna find out on this weekend when we do the live stream commentary.
Close this game because he fights once every 6 years, it feels like. So I'm gonna pick Whitaker because
he says Costa fights every 6 years. That's a crazy span and average time between fights.
It's Robert Whitaker. He's a blown up middleweight, sure, or he's a blown up welterweight, sure. He's got no chin, sure. Paulo Costa is a heavy hitter, all good, but he doesn't fight enough for him to be considered somebody who you should be afraid of. And then Ferreira.
I think that's very well said, man. I couldn't agree with you more. I'm just not afraid of Costa. I'm not scared that, if it were even Ian Gary or something like that, or not the same division, but like if it were, let me look at the rankings real quick just to refresh my memory a bit. If it were Cannonier versus Whitaker again, if it were maybe even Brendan Allen, if it were Adesanya, of course, if it were Chimaev, I would be worried for Whitaker. I would still pick Whitaker, but I just don't see anything that Costa has to threaten Whitaker that I would be worried about. Again, he struggled with a Luke Rockhold, couldn't get him out of there. If he can't get him out of there, I think he's going to really struggle with Whitaker, especially with the skill set that Whitaker has.
Volkanovski, Topuria. I like Volk. I think he's a great champion.
He might be. I'm worried about saying this. He might be oiling the listeners up right now. Beta saying he's a great champion. He's this and that. All that to say that Volkanovski loses. It seems that's what he's leading to. Let's see what he has to say.
I just think that Topuria has enough power in his hands that he could keep Volk, you know, he can keep Volk light on his toes and not shoot for the takedowns like he usually does when he gets in trouble. And we've actually never seen Topuria even throw a kick because his hands are so dominant. So I think I just want new blood in that division. And it might just me being biased towards that. I'm going to Topuria for that. And that's it. That's all I got to say, really. Tell me what you think. I think I just want new blood in that division. And it might just me being biased towards that. I'm going to Topuria for that. And that's it. That's all.
He's going to Poria. I thought you were picking Volk. Did you change your mind or I'm wrong? I'm wrong, Beta. Let me know. I thought you picked Volkanovski before.
All I got to say, really. Tell me what you think. I could be wrong on a lot of this, so don't nobody put no money on what I say.
I mean, you usually are, Beta. Am I right? Am I wrong? You usually are wrong about picking fights. No, I love the call, man. I think that was a great call. And I like your picks, actually. They were great in my opinion. Not only were they good picks, I like your picks and the way you broke it down, and I could actually see it playing out how you said. I think where we disagree in certain fights is what's going to make it interesting, because one of us is going to be right, one of us is going to be wrong. Let's see who's more accurate. I don't know why this is not letting me zoom out. There we go. But Beta has Kopilov. He has Cejudo, where we disagree. We both have Neal. We both have Whitaker. We both have Topuria. So the only one we disagree in, I think, is a Cejudo fight. We actually agree with Neal. Makes me feel a little bit more confident. Yes, 267-545-0960 if you want to share your predictions. It will be played live on stream as soon as I see it being updated. Oh, let me take that off of there. And so if you haven't called already, yes, please call in, leave your voicemail. I remember, Hito, you said you wanted to leave a voicemail unless you wanted to do a live call, and let me know, but feel free to leave a voicemail. We'll get right to it. Yeah, feel free either way. No, I've always picked Topuria. Okay, for some reason, it was somebody out there. I think it was Hollywood that picked Volkanovski, which makes me even feel more confident. Well, Beta Quest, it is what it is. Topuria, honestly, I don't care who wins. Yeah, Chris Faith has Topuria. But in the chat, as far as the votes, 75% for Volkanovski. Just like who won last night's Super Bowl. Damn, man, the freaking Chiefs won, bro. Crazy outcome. What's up, Hollywood Hito? Says Chris. I think their size similarities take away from a lot of Volk's sneaky advantages. Yep. That might be a Pitbull Cruz. Again, Pitbull Cruz tank situation. Nah, Hito, I care about the fighting, not the promos. The beef between Hito and Beta Quest continue. So, yeah, if you guys didn't hear my picks as far as before, to refresh your memory, is Kopilov, it's Merab, it's Jeff Neal, it's Robert Whitaker, it's Ilia Topuria. Let me talk a little bit about this main event fight being Topuria and Volkanovski. I'm a little bit worried about my pick. I'll be quite honest. I'm worried because Volkanovski is a veteran. I'm worried because Topuria hasn't fought anyone like Volkanovski as far as skilled, as experienced, as seasoned. Again, he's pound for pound one of the best fighters in the UFC. So for him to be as confident as he is, it's a little bit crazy, because if he pulls it off, he's going to look like a genius the way Conor did against Aldo, or he's going to be the laughingstock saying, listen, you bit off more than you could chew, and now you lost, and now you're humbled. Even Volkanovski himself said that he will be humbled. So it's one or the other. Volkanovski, again, his resume is far better than Topuria's. Granted, Topuria is newer and fresher. Now the reason why I'm banking on Topuria is because just the way that maybe I might be putting too much emphasis on this, but just the way he lost to Islam Makhachev. On top of that, he has been saying, or he has said, that he was drinking every day for like about 4 weeks straight. It's a little bit alarming for me. And look at the changing of the guards. Look at his age. Champions over 35, just statistically haven't been doing quite well. And the percentage of them winning has been lower and lower throughout the, I guess, years, you could say. It just doesn't necessarily end well for older fighters trying to defend their belt against new contenders. Sean Strickland, you could say the same thing. He doesn't have the same resume that Adesanya has. He hasn't beaten anyone like Adesanya or anyone as good as Adesanya. Sean Strickland gets a job done. And ironically, it just hit me live while we're thinking about this out loud. Adesanya was also drinking as well, too. He caught a DUI before the Sean Strickland win. You see these fighters that have been at the top of the hill, on the top of the hill, winning fight after fight after fight, defending their title, and then it's the unexpected contender that got the win. I thought it would be Whitaker to beat Adesanya. It ended up being Sean Strickland. I thought it was maybe someone like a Max Holloway that could perhaps get the job done against Volkanovski. Maybe this time too it could be someone expected or unexpected like maybe it could be someone unexpected this time like Topuria. What other divisions am I? Oh, another one as well too. O'Malley versus Sterling. Now I picked O'Malley to win that fight, but I thought it could perhaps be someone like Cejudo to get the job done. It was someone unexpected and unexperienced or inexperienced like O'Malley. Maybe perhaps it's gonna be the same case. We have a voicemail, so let's get right to it as we continue talking about Volkanovski and Topuria. Next voicemail. Here we go.
Hito 609.
Here we go. Hito 609 calling in, sharing his thoughts. Now, guys, as a reference, what we usually do with Hollywood Hito's picks is that we listen to them, then we bet the complete opposite, and usually make a lot of money. But here we go.
Or Hollywood Hito. However you want to call me, I'm a vet. So.
And we'll catch up with chat. I see a couple messages on there. Sorry that I'm behind.
So Topuria and Volk. All right. As it stands, the fight itself, Volk's going to destroy. Volk is going to destroy Topuria. Second round, TKO.
Wow.
You heard it here first. But as far as the Hollywood side coming out of me, man, if Topuria wins that fight, I think it's better for UFC. I mean, the guy's very confident. Really, really confident, actually. I think he has like some type of documentary coming out of him already winning or a movie or something like that that's already made that's supposed to come out after the fight. It's kind of crazy. And then on top of that, I'm getting some Conor Jose Aldo vibes here, you know what I mean? If he does pull up the W. But I think both beats him all day long. Nonetheless, got some Conor Jose Aldo vibes going on here. I'll see you.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I guess it's safe to say Hito has Volkanovski winning, but prefers maybe Topuria to win. It'll be a spectacle if he does get the job done. Makes me a little bit more confident picking Topuria now that Hito went on the other side. Let's catch up with chat a little bit as well too. I picked two-time champions, two dudes who have dynamite in their hands, and a prospect, says Beta Quest. Topuria, if you rewatch the Emmett fight, he didn't go for a sub that was there at the end of the fourth after rocking him. He went for ground and pound over rear naked choke. His boxing is slick. Listen, what he did to Bryce Mitchell and dominating him the way in which he did, and then beating Emmett, I'm impressed. But and the big if or the big difference is that Volkanovski is pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world. I mean, he's number 3 right now, so it's tough. It's mixed martial arts in the cage, Hito. The mic don't save you. If I'm lying, ask Strickland. Some big talkers have been taking big losses. Colby Covington, man, I almost want to make a separate video about this, but let me just pull up one thing real quick, just one thing that I wanted to talk about. And I think this is evidence of this. I'll make sure I keep catching up with chat, guys. Number 1 commentary channel on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the thumbs up and all that. Colby Covington, man. You've seen big talkers. They have been. You've seen big talkers get some big losses. Colby Covington being one of them. Back then, I mean, he was getting views. They were up there, 186,000 by Submission Radio, 346,000 2 years ago, 164,000, which I would kill for these numbers, right? 284,000, 300. Listen, they were milking the Colby Covington interviews, and respectively, that's what they should have done. 303,000, 113,000. He was getting views, but he loses against Leon Edwards, and now his last interview is 32,000. That's a big drop off, is all I'm saying. he was relying on talking a big game, but because of that horrendous performance that he had in his last fight, his last interview with Submission Radio was 32,000. I think that's somewhat proof that he just isn't that interesting anymore. Maybe Sean Strickland took a lot of his fans, but is it kind of the beginning of the end for Colby Covington as far as people being interested or excited to watch him fight? I mean, there are fights that I would be interested to see Colby Covington in next, but yeah, I don't want to see the Stephen Thompson fight, the one that he's been calling out for. If he fights Shavkat, I have Shavkat winning. Maybe there aren't that many options for him, but maybe the shtick and the appeal, maybe that's over. And I think the views are reflecting that, where people maybe not caring as much what he has to say now as compared to back then. Someone stomping upstairs. That's probably the daughter. Let's catch up with chat. Let's see. How about there's no co-main event for UFC 305? Hollywood Hito versus Beta Quest, and main event Chris Faith versus damn. Chris Faith put Beta Quest and Hito on the undercard. I respect it. The main event does have to be Trey Melton versus Chris Faith. Also, the drinking makes it look like he's not there mentally anymore. I agree 100%. That's a little bit worrisome of just him not being mentally there. 267-545-8096 if you want to share your thoughts on who wins the main event this weekend. I remember Ali was saying that he wanted to say something, but I don't see it there. So we'll see if something pops up later. Volk is 5 of the 6 of those older champs that win in that stat, by the way, Miller. A little bit worrisome. It's a little bit worrisome. Izzy is a bad influence on Volk. Maybe there are comparisons or, similarities on why we're going to Poria. I'd never fight Beta. That's the homie. Beta will probably just 1-2. He'll land a 1-2 and it'll be over anyways. Hito is a homie. It's never bad blood. That's fine. Indeed. Nobody cares about Covington. Like, let's just move on. That's what I'm saying. Maybe just the excitement and the appeal. It just isn't there. The stock has dropped, I think you could say. Colby was in denial after that lackluster performance. Yeah, I mean, he was being booed. Trump was leaving. Now Trump is doing behind the scenes face-offs with Strickland. I mean, it's just the appeal isn't there anymore. And listen, you could gamble on yourself, you could do what you want, but when you start talking about dead family members, when you start listen, the whole I'm Donald Trump's favorite fighter. I don't know why he was saying that as if people cared. Like, that's a weird flex. Oh, Donald Trump, I'm Donald Trump's favorite fighter. Nobody cares. Now, the trash talking, the nicknames, Leon Scott and Marty Fake Newsman, that was funny. Street Judas Masvidal instead of Street Jesus, they were funny. But I don't know. I think he was in over his head a bit too much with the trash talking with Leon, and it backfired. I mean, people were behind Colby, and it just doesn't seem like they're behind them anymore like they once were. What's up, Steve? Welcome to the stream. The DC Fat Club member with the gold glove. Appreciate you. So is Hito with the silver glove and Beta with the gold glove as well, too. Tuto says, Colby versus Strickland Super American Patriot fight. Oh, man, now that's a fight that will sell quite well because it's the two Americans, the outspoken guys. Oh, man, that'll sell well. And Strickland has fought at 170 before. I doubt it we see him back at 170 though. Let me get a live call. Join general voice chat and I will jump in there. That's the easiest way to do it instead of you calling in. We do have another voicemail though. Let's play it real quickly. Let's see what we have here.
So UFC 298. Let's just start from the bottom to the top.
I'm assuming this is Alleyway. Alleyway, let us know if that's you. I'm going to put your volume up a bit.
Anthony Hernandez and Roman. I'm not even going to attempt that.
Thank you for being a first-time caller. Appreciate you, man. That should be fun.
I don't know enough about Roman, but I know more about Anthony. I'm going to go Anthony with that. He's just nasty in the pocket. He's just nasty all around when it comes to the hands, elbows, things like that.
He's a higher ranked fighter, so this is a step up for Kopylov. Shout out to Alleyway, by the way, too. It takes balls, I guess you could say. It takes confidence to call in. If you want, you could cut. Actually, what most people do if it gets cut off at the 3-minute mark, they call back and then they just leave another voicemail. So feel free to do that. By the time I finish this voicemail, you could probably do that if you choose to. If you choose to do so. But with all that being said, thank you for calling in because it takes balls. People get scared to call in, and it takes a a man to call in and share their predictions and not be scared and just share their opinion in today's age. So appreciate you, man. Shout out to Alleyway. Let's show him some love. Let's get back to the voicemail.
Next up, Merab and Henry. See, what people got confused about Merab with that Peter Yan fight is Yan has been constantly disrespected by the UFC the past couple of years in the UFC. Had a couple cancellations for mainly no reason. Couple things here and there. And he just is frustrated. In all of his fights, you can tell how frustrated Yan is. And as a fan of Yan, I can see that. Watching his older fights leading up to that Merab fight, he just looked frustrated. And I think that's what really kind of screwed him over in that fight, along with how Merab was just smothering with takedowns, just takedown after takedown. It was bad to watch that fight. It was just takedown after takedown. He was spanking him a few times. Yeah, Yan that was not the best fight for Yan. But Merab did his thing. But Cejudo, he's a 3-time champion. His own words. He's done a lot in terms of wrestling, in terms of UFC, in terms of all of that. But when it comes to these two, when it's wrestling against wrestling, it always ends up on the feet. And if we're going to go based off the feet,
here we go. Good point.
That's where it gets a little tight, because Merab definitely has that hunger where he's got more power behind that. He's younger. Has one more loss than Cejudo, though. They're tied. I'm gonna go Merab.
Damn, the way you were talking, Alleyway, it sounded like you were gonna lean more towards Cejudo. So interesting. At the end of the day, you go with Merab.
I think Cejudo has the hunger when it comes to proving how good he is, but not when it comes to I want to destroy this person in front of me. And Merab, I think, just has that. So I'm going to go Merab.
Interesting. Who wants it more? Basically, Merab.
Next, Neil versus Ian Gary. I'm just going to go Ian Gary off rip.
That's fair.
He's just got nasty leg kicks.
I'm a little bit worried about that as well, too.
The first leg kick he landed on Neil Magny, or whatever, he destroyed him. Like, when I saw that man fall to the floor off of a calf kick and scoot.
Yeah, that was crazy. He had Neil Magny compromised. It was a little weird that he couldn't finish him, but
being across the octagon on his butt, that was crazy. That I'm gonna go Ian Gary.
Thank you for the call, Alleyway. Feel free to leave the voicemail, because I would like to hear the co-main and main event, your predictions. Let's jump in there with Hollywood and see what Hollywood has to say. Hollywood, welcome to the stream.
What's up? Have you talked about Strickland at all?
Have I? We talked about Strickland a bit, but I don't know if we did, referring to whatever you have in mind.
This guy's had the craziest 24 hours, a UFC fighter.
No, let's talk about it with the whole Bryce Hall and all these other situations.
You go from initially meeting Donald Trump, his new favorite fighter, right?
Right.
And then you get into a boxing match with Sneeko, toy around with him, and then bust his nose. Mm-hmm. Then you get into $1 million match with Jake Paul. I think Strickland is the one to take that offer. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he's going to say no to that.
I think he said yes already. I think
he did say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said yes. I mean, like, Jake Paul throws these, like, these bets out there, but Sean Strickland might be the one to take it. And then you go to the whole MGK thing at some the Power Slap event where he's getting a beef with him, calling him a weirdo and a vampire. This guy is just a headline machine right now.
I forgot about the most recent thing with Jake Paul and Bryce Hall, like, and all of it together. It is kind of crazy, all the headlines he's making. What do you make of all that?
I don't know if Beta wants to hear this, but it makes him a valuable asset for selling pay-per-views. You know what I mean? It makes him a headliner. But, that might be too much for Beta to handle. It's a crazy concept.
I had a feeling you were gonna mention. I mean, is anyone making more noise than Sean Strickland in the UFC right now?
Right now, it's Strickland and Taporia. They're stealing all the headlines. Taporia is going crazy, being overconfident, giving Conor McGregor vibes. And then you got Strickland. I mean, who else is really killing? Other than like a new meme on Alex Pereira, because he's still killing the internet with all the memes. Every time this guy posts a picture, he's like a meme machine. So yeah, those are kind of three guys headlining everything right now. You know me, I'm Hollywood, but I stay on Twitter, so I see what's going on. You know, live every minute of the day. So kind of those three guys killing the headlines.
Back to the conversation, since we're talking about headlines and everything, and I know you and Beta beef a little bit, so let's talk a little bit more about that. Let me just ask you the simple question to see where you stand as compared to Beta, and we can have this conversation. Is it necessary to do what Strickland does, or do you just have to be good in the octagon? I think that's just a fairly simple question, where maybe you guys disagree, but Sean Strickland has stole the show.
I mean, I think. How many people have just been good in the octagon and headline? Like Merab is actually starting to kind of like really change it around. He's becoming kind of viral lately because like his style is very boring in the ring, but like, you know, you would say he's kind of dominant with his wrestling, and now he's starting to get all the headlines because he's marketing himself better. He's got the YouTube channel, he's got these memes that are going out, the stuff with the strong Strickland challenging other people, the him making fun of Cejudo and how he's like patting down people's back as like a massage weirdly. Like but he wasn't getting all this shine before just being a good fighter. Matter of fact, he wasn't getting a title shot before just being a good fighter. So like all that stuff that you don't need to do, or Beta just likes good fights. Well, unfortunately, because you guys don't spend the money, don't buy the merchandise, don't buy the you know the UFC cards that are coming out, you guys don't want to invest. You just want the best fights. That's not going to sell. You have to promote yourself. Like I was telling you before, Miller, you are an independent contractor. Therefore, that means you are a business. Name any other business that's successful that doesn't market their product. You're your product, and you're also your own business. You got to market yourself. That's how it works.
And Strickland has been doing a good job of that. Taporia, Colby maybe taking a dip a little bit lately. But yeah, it's necessary, I think, for you to try to stand out. Now, does that suck because, you know, they have to put more time in that as opposed to just being in the gym 24/7? Maybe it sucks for them a little bit, but it's the way I look at it is part of the game.
Absolutely.
Like, it's part of the game where I guess Beta would disagree, Snipey would disagree. He was here talking about that a bit this past Saturday. But it's just part of the game right now. And
yeah, but the people like Beta, like I said, you guys aren't the ones that are making these fights happen. Unfortunately, it's the casual fans that are investing, that are paying their pay-per-views, that are buying. Oh, the UFC are coming out with Topps cards now. They're the ones that are going to buy it. They're going to be looking for the Strickland cards and all that stuff. So it's those people that are putting money into the company. Then those people get to dictate. Once you start putting money into the company, then you'll be able to dictate. But you guys aren't. The purists never have been. They just complain like old men.
Oh, it's getting spicy. Basically, they're not the one that's keeping the lights on, I guess you could say that Hollywood is saying. Any final thoughts on the UFC and marketing that you have, Hito, before I get to the next voicemail?
Beta, no fun quest. I think that's what I'm going with.
The beef continues between Beta Quest and Hollywood Hito. Thank you for the call, sir.
See you.
Later. All right, let me quickly let me get to the next voicemail. We're gonna get to one voicemail, and then we're gonna call it a day, and we'll be back tonight. Let's get to the last voicemail.
Okay. So co-main and main. That ring rust with Costa, I really think that's a real thing. I think Costa's ring rust is gonna cost him this fight. And for the main, once again it comes down to hunger. Volkanovski's older.
The problem with the hunger debate, I understand where maybe Topuria is younger and hungrier, but because of the way that Volkanovski lost, I think he really is coming back to try to prove that he's still the best featherweight of all time. I still have Topuria winning, but I do think he's coming into the mindset maybe a little bit more hungrier than, as an example, hungrier than Adesanya was against Strickland.
Oh, he's undefeated.
And I think it cut off there. Oh, here we go.
All right. The first one was real choppy, both of them against Whitaker and then against Strickland. He's awkward. Like, that's used a lot in the UFC, but they're not really awkward, but it's confusing to watch him move. It's real unorthodox while still.
Let me catch up with chat before I get through the rest of this voicemail. I'm going to leave okay, cool. I probably played the wrong one, alleyway. Pay-per-view isn't as important coming into the later stages of the game. The most important is the gate. Pay-per-view is dying with the stream. Ooh, we have a little debate. If pay-per-view was lucrative, we'd see the market move towards that instead of away from it. After he thought I'm next in Discord, plus we have to talk and I'll wait. Sounds good. I'm never saying marketing isn't key. I'm saying these guys focus on the marketing and getting effing dropped in the octagon, says Beta. So you can do all that marketing if you want to. It means when you lose on the big stage. Sell your low quality merch and YouTube channels. I want fighters to make more money, but don't be a loudmouth and the loser. Who cares that McGregor is a draw? I'm not paying for his fights. All right, the most recent voicemail is done. Yeah, so there should be the second one. Okay, I just saw it now. I have to refresh my page. McGregor is an outlier, so there is no one who has done it since him. Okay, cool. Talking about the
orthodox at the same time. It's weird to watch him fight. So with Pasta being out for so long,
right?
I really think that out of practice is a real thing. I really think that's a real thing. Him being out, it's just going to mess with him. Or I could be wrong, and he goes in there and he just smothers him to prove a point that even though he's been out for years and years, that he can go in and finish somebody like Robert Whitaker.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to go Whitaker.
I got Whitaker as well, too. Thinking out loud.
My mind is telling me Costa, but my heart is telling me Whitaker because I've watched Whitaker longer.
It's interesting. I have it backwards. I say my mind is telling me Whitaker. My heart could be telling me Costa.
I'm going to go Costa on that one.
Wow.
And for the main event, there's nothing wrong with being confident. There's nothing wrong with being ready for a fight. But when that person you're getting ready to fight is Alexander Volkanovski, who is just crazy all around, like,
it's getting interesting.
On the ground, on the feet, like, he doesn't care. He will take a punch to give a punch, and that hasn't worked out against Islam, but Tempora isn't Islam, so Volkanovski definitely has something to prove, though, after that loss. He definitely wants to prove he's still the best. I think this is going to be a fight of who's hungrier. And I think both of them are coming to smash. They're both coming to prove themselves. So that one.
In Hamza's voice.
That main event. But with the age of
I love the thinking out loud from Alleyway. Here we go.
Volkanovski, the prime going down after 35.
Right. That stat is crazy that Beta brought up earlier. When champions are over 35 defending the title, it usually doesn't go well for them. And Volkanovski's right there.
Once again, my mind is
Leroy in the building. What's up, Leroy? Welcome to the stream, man. Always coming through and showing love. What's up, Leroy? How is your day going?
Telling me Volkanovski, or my heart's telling me Volkanovski, but my mind is telling me Tempora. Just what I know off fight.
Which one is he going with?
I've seen. Yeah, I'm gonna go Tempora. Or this is a toss.
He's going with Tempora. That's what I heard last. Thank you for the call, Alleyway, again, man. You guys calling in, Beta, Hito, Chris, Beta, Hito, Chris, Alleyway. You guys calling in just makes the show a lot more fun, man. We got 4 people that were calling in live. Every show, more people call in. And at 7 p.m. tonight, we're going to have a show as well, too, with Trey Melton, where we have a live discussion with me and Trey, and we let people debate on camera, because me and Trey usually disagree for the most part. Sometimes we agree, and then people just go against us, and we just have a lively debate. That's at 7 p.m., so make sure you're here. Hit the bell for post notifications. But great picks from you guys in the chat. I could see why you guys picked, for the most part, or disagreed with me in certain aspects. For example, the Ian Gary thing that Alleyway brought up, the leg kicks do concern me a little bit. Beta Quest going with Cejudo as far as what he's going to be able to do. It makes everything interesting. So we're going to find out exactly how it plays out. Hunger as in who's going to see the other guy hurt and want to put them out for good. I've used Hunger that a lot, and that's what I mean by hunger. No, absolutely. It's like 15-6 of older fighters winning, and Volk holds 5 of those. Wow. That's insane. We're about to see what happens, Beta. I mean, I can't wait. 7 p.m. we're gonna have a live show. Make sure you're here. We came out with shorts earlier today. So thank you guys for the ongoing support. If you want a preview on how the shows usually go on at 7 p.m., I guess I could put that in the chat, and it's about Volkanovski too, is right here. So go check that out if you haven't already. Hit the thumbs up. #1 commentary channel on YouTube. We'll be back at 7 p.m. I gotta get out of here. Your boy will be back 7 p.m. So make sure you're here. God bless. I'll see you at 7 p.m.